as the senator from Tennessee points out, historic mistake.
Could I mention also on the issue of pharma again? Here we are in the direst of economic times. A consumer price index which has declined by 1.3% this year, and they have orchestrated a 9% increase in the cost of prescription drugs. I mean, that is a remarkable role. Laying an additional burden, which naturally falls more on seniors than anybody else, since they are the greatest users of pharmaceutical drugs. And I don't blame them for fighting for their industry. But the point is that what they're doing is harming millions and millions of Americans. So, again, about contributing the cynicism of the American people, whether you are for or against the issue of drug reimportation, to cut a deal behind closed doors, and then apparently, because of opposition or support of an amendment by Senator Dorgan, go down and negotiate another deal. I mean, is not that, how do you describe a process like that?
Well, Madam President, unsavory.
Senator from Tennessee.
Unsavory would be a minimum word that comes to my mind. The problem I have, I mean, Americans have a perfect right and the pharmaceutical industry has a perfect right to advocate its point of view. But as I hear the senator describe what's been going on, am I hearing this correctly? That, I mean, the pharmaceutical industry is saying, we don't like drug importation. And the White House says, okay, we'll cut a deal with you. Behind closed doors, so far as we can do it, we'll change the law this way. And then the
original deal, I might say, is published in every newspaper, was that they would close the so-called donut hole by some $80 billion. The CBO said their profits would be reduced by some $100 billion if we allowed reimportation. So they had a $20 billion cushion.
So it's a negotiation between the White House, I guess, that's the President of the United States, a big industry, about profits. It says, I'll do this, you do that, and then you go out, and am I understanding you right, that and as part of the deal, then the industry goes out and spends $150 million on television advertisements in support of the deal? Is that the deal?
But then, incredibly, they counted the votes. The votes were there to pass the Dorgan Amendment, and according to published reports, the pharmaceutical industry is negotiating with the White House and lawmakers on a revised health care deal under which the industry would ante up cuts beyond the $80 billion it agreed to this summer. In other words, because that wasn't sufficient to get votes to kill the Dorgan Amendment that would allow reimportation of drugs, they went down and renegotiated. What is that called?
Well, you know, if I'm remembering right, earlier this year, the Republican leader made a talk on the floor. I mean, the attitude toward the White House toward a large company in the state of Kentucky, as I remember, was, if you don't agree with us on health care, we'll tax you. I mean, that was the attitude that seems to come out. If you don't agree with us, we'll tax you, or we'll make it difficult for you to do business, or if you do agree with us, we'll make a deal with you that affects your profit.
My friend from Tennessee, beyond that, the administration basically told this company to shut up, issued a gag order, so offensive that even the editorial page of the New York Times said it shouldn't have been done, that they could not communicate with their customers the impact of various parts of this bill on the product that they buy, the Medicare Advantage product. The tactics have been highly questionable, it strikes me, from the beginning of the year up to the present, and what Senator McCain is talking about is just the most recent example.
Can I also give you, to illustrate graphically, in this news report, several lobbyists told Inside Health Policy, that's the organization that's reporting this, they've heard that the Pharmaceutical Research and Manufacturers of America may have already reached a deal with the White House and AARP to close the Senate bill's coverage gap by 75% versus the 50% on the current bill. Pharma declined to confirm the reports that it may be agreeable to reforms that would further close the donut hole, but signaled discussions underway, and AARP said that no agreement has been reached. We haven't seen a deal. So here's our old friends, the AARP, at it again, at it again.
Would the senator from Arizona yield on this point? Is this not the same AARP that would, I'm told, actually benefit from the decline of Medicare Advantage because they sell a policy themselves that would then likely be more likely to be purchased by seniors? Is this the same AARP that?
When you lose Medicare Advantage, as Dr. Barrasso will fully attest, then you are really almost forced into the so-called Medigap policies, which then cover the things that are no longer covered under Medicare Advantage, dental, visual, fitness, and other aspects of the program. So, aspects of Medicare Advantage. So if you destroy Medicare Advantage, then people will be forced into the Medigap policies. Who makes their money off Medigap policies? AARP.
Would yield just a question about this deal with Big Pharma. I made reference to and quoted from a few days ago a scathing editorial by Robert Reich, who served as Secretary of Labor in the Clinton administration, who is a leading intellectual liberal Democrat, who called this in the most scathing terms, criticized these deals in the most scathing terms, used words that I was reluctant to use on the floor because, as my colleague said, unseemly or whatever. I'd say it goes beyond that. He used the word extortion. I don't think he used that word lightly. And I think it's the kind of process, and the senator has been here, and many of you that are on the floor now have been here for a long time, but it seems to me this is pushing the envelope on deal making to the point that really is a dangerous step, and it goes beyond anything that we should countenance, in my view.
I agree with the senator, and I'd like to ask Dr. Barrasso, because he has treated patients that are under Medicare Advantage. But before I do, I just want to say again, the whole process has been wrong. The process of going behind closed doors, the process where after nearly a year of addressing this issue, the distinguished, and he's a fine person, a fine senator from Illinois, the number 2 leader in the majority, in a colloquy I had with him just 2 days ago, said, no one knows what's in the bill. Said, no one knows what's in the bill. This is after a year. I mean, it's wrong. And what it does is this issue is vital, but it destroys the confidence of the American people to be truly represented here and have their interest overridden by the special interests, of which pharma and this deal that's going on right now is the classic example. I'd ask Senator Barrasso.
Well, before Dr. Barrasso speaks, if I just listening to the senator from Arizona, I mean, it seems to me it puts the Democratic leadership in the extremely awkward position of even its leadership of proposing a bill that affects 16% of our economy, and the leadership of the Democratic Senate doesn't yet know what's in the bill. We certainly don't know what's in the bill, and they're in the awkward position, or have been the last 2 or 3 days, actually, of filibustering their own bill at a time when they're insisting that we pass the bill before Christmas, which we can hear the sleigh bells ringing. It's just a few days before that happens.
And it just seems that as